Hello there. Welcome to another bonus episode. Thank you for being part of the Patreon. Last week, we did a 2-part crossover with Heaving Bosoms where we talked about the madness of Lordy and Mackenzie. But we also recorded a bonus episode for her Patreon and for y'all, where Melody and I are going to be answering questions from the folks in the Heaving Bosoms Patreon. It's ridiculously fun. And there was so much content that I have a second bonus episode, also of Melody and I answering questions. So let's get started on with this bonus episode. And thank you again for supporting the show. Bonus episode with questions. Hit me with a question.
Do you have any favorite romance couples in TV or film?
Yes, many.
Tell me everything.
Okay. All right. Well, you're gonna...
One of mine is Jamie and Claire from Outlander, from Showtime's Outlander.
Obviously. Those two actors have chemistry that is just astonishing.
Criminal.
It's like things are going to be on fire just because they are looking at each other. Like that is just such talent.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Okay. So one of my favorite couples is Hiccup and Astrid from the How to Train Your Dragon series.
I love a Hiccup and Astrid.
She's tough. She's going to beat your ass. She's extremely strong. She is loyal. She's loyal. She is the warrior of the two of them. And he is the like rogue, clever chaos agent.
Yes.
And he drives her nuts. And she's like, I just don't understand why you can't just be normal.
Yeah.
And then they end up
But she also loves every single one of his quirks.
Yeah.
She loves them.
Yeah. And they are one of my favorite couples. Especially because as their relationship is portrayed in the movies, it's incredibly healthy and supportive when they're together. And they like each other. There's no dumb drama. Like they're not going to cause drama with each other. They are each other's safe space.
I like that a lot. I never would have thought of Hiccup and Astrid, but
Love Hiccup and Astrid. Yeah.
Oh my God. And like, that's one of the few franchises that my kids will be like, let's watch a movie. And if they say it's one of the How to Train Your Dragons, I am enthusiastically on the couch next to them.
Let's do this. Yes. I love it.
Do it.
Oh yeah. The soundtrack is exquisite. The visuals are amazing. I love everything about that series. And if you're a fan of it, there's 3 TV series that fill in the years between the movie. Oh, which one? Race to the Edge?
No, it's the newest one. It's the
the 9 Realms. Dragons in the 9 Realms. Yeah. There's just so much dragons. So much dragons.
And my kids are watching Rescue Riders too.
Yeah.
They love Rescue Riders.
I mean, there is so much to just dive into that world. It's so fun. So yeah, Hiccup and Astrid, top shelf.
I like that. Did you ever watch Chuck?
No.
Okay. Well, I love Chuck and whoever Yvonne Strahotsky plays.
Yes. I struggle with Zachary Levi at the minute. Good. I struggle with Zachary Levi being
What did he do?
He's a super evangelical Christian anti-vaxxing buttnoid. Pfizer is bad and should be investigated. Oh yeah, he's a super, super evangelical Christian anti-vaxxing right wing.
I'm heartbroken now, Sarah.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you for telling me.
I can't
I need to know these things.
Yeah, I
haven't watched him in anything in years. I knew he was in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel for a season, but I didn't watch that season.
Yeah.
And then he was in like a Shazam, but I didn't watch a Shazam because I didn't find it compelling at all. No, Zachary Levi. Yeah. However you say his name. Is that how you say his name? I don't care.
Know.
I don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
No, he's a Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
He might be worse than a Chris Pratt because he doesn't keep his mouth shut as well as Chris Pratt does.
And I don't know if Zachary's like anti-gay as much as the church that Pratt goes to is anti-gay. But yeah, Zachary doubled down on being kind of a dingus and was doing a lot of anti-Pfizer tweets. Yeah, it was unfortunate. One of these people is going to get sued by Pfizer. Like they've got money and they're going to defend themselves. Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Don't be dumb.
Like, and why this? There's so much about Pfizer that is problematic and should be called out.
Yeah.
Like price gouging and stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Don't talk about the very necessary COVID vaccines, you fuck. You know what? At least Yvonne Strahotsky will always be good.
Oh, so good. So extremely good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think for me, it's always going to be Hiccup and Astrid.
I love that.
Yeah, that's my fandom. My other fandom.
I love that. If you were going, okay, I know that you have, but I think we're going to say this as another one. If you were going to write a romance novel, what characters and tropes would you include? And do you have any title ideas?
Why, yes, I do.
Oh.
Well, the thing is, I wrote the trope I love the most. I wrote a book, a Hanukkah romance called Lighting the Flames. It is friends to lovers. And it takes place at a Jewish summer camp in winter during Hanukkah. The hero is a Jewish mortician. Like, I just threw in whatever the hell I wanted and had a really good time.
I love that.
And it was all my favorite things. Nerdy hero, super smart, creative heroine, friends to lovers, trying really hard not to be like super into each other because it's just, I had a really good time and I like it a lot. So that is probably what I would do. I think everything that I've written that is romance or fanfic is some form of friends to lovers.
Really?
Yeah. It's some form of, it's some variation of, I can or I want to learn to be my absolute true self, but just with you. And like that deepening of trust is my favorite thing. But also, like, my husband and I met when we were 17. We were in high school. We've been together since we were 19. And so we have a relationship where we both grew up and became adults and figured our shit out. And that resonates with me when I read it too, because it creates this very complete image of a person when you know both what they value in friendship and what they value sexually and what they value romantically. Like, all of those things combining is much more interesting to me. So yeah, that's what I would write, and that's what I did write, and that's probably what I'll keep writing.
So I have a question for you, because what I hear the most as far as a critique of friends to lovers is like that people will be like, but why haven't they yet? You know what I mean? So what do you think about that?
Well, I think it relies on a really solid set of internal and external conflicts. You have to have both, because just having external conflicts means that the circumstances are in the way. And eventually, if you really, really, really want to be with somebody, then you have to change the circumstances. Like, the answer is really obvious. And if the questions are all internal, it's like, okay, well, then you need to have a conversation. And the longer you try to sustain that tension, the less effective it is. But if you have a complicated set of internal and external complications and internal and external conflicts that are preventing them or that are in the way or that they have to deal with, then it creates okay, we've got a lot of things to work out to be together. Where do we start? And how do we move past all of the things that we didn't know about or didn't know how to fix? So, for example, with the book that I wrote, she had gone away on a postdoctoral fellowship to Iceland. So she had been away. The last summer that they had been staffed together, he left abruptly because it turned out that there was a space for him at the mortuary school that he needed to go to take over his parents' funeral home. And because once you work at camp, once you get like a real job that has like, you have to go to your job in the summer too. Well, that means you don't go to camp anymore. And so there's a time limit of being staff where you're not always going to have your summers free unless you're a student or a teacher or you don't work or you have a job where you have your summers off. So there's that situational problem. And then there's all of the things that they hadn't said to each other. And the fact that her parents had been killed and his funeral home had done the funeral, and she was just at about a year past their deaths. So it was like I really struggle with stories where somebody has just experienced a trauma and they're like, they have the emotional capacity to also have a relationship. And I'm like, death is not linear. Grief is not easy. It shows up and goes up and down. And with Judaism, when someone dies, you sit Shiva for a week and you do nothing but mourn. That is the only thing you do. You don't bathe. You don't look in the mirror. People bring you food. You just sit and you mourn because you have to get used to life without the person who you've lost. And then when Shiva is over, you re-enter the world by taking a walk around the block. That's what you do. And so after that, you start marking time based on the date of their death. You acknowledge the date of their death because that was the end of their life. And it's the thing that the things that they've accomplished ended in that day. And a year after, you still mark that day very deliberately. You can do it on the secular day. You can do it on the Hebrew calendar. You can do both. But there's ways of marking that time period. And I really struggle with, oh yeah, I had this major loss like a couple of months ago, but sure, let's get involved in a really complicated I can't do that. So all of those circumstances created misunderstandings and obstacles. And that was what I felt was the best answer to. So just bone already. What's the problem here? Like, why won't you just bone, for God's sake? What's holding you back here? You need a lot of internal and external conflicts to really make them work.
Right.
And I will tell you a cool thing I learned writing wise. So Mary Robinette Kowal gave a seminar based on the idea of when you open and close a conflict. So if you've ever written code, like computer code, when you open a code, you have to close the code and they have to nest. So if you make something bold and then you make something center, you can't close the bold tag and then close the center tag. It has to be bold, center, center, bold. So they have to nest in order to function. And that is true with conflicts in romance. So if you start out with one conflict and then there's another conflict and then there's a third conflict, you can't solve the first one because that's the first one. You have to solve the third, the second, and then the first. You have to nest them. Otherwise, you get that feeling of, okay, well, they solved the conflict. They solved the one
they did the original conflict.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to solve them in nesting order, basically. And I didn't know that was true until I started noticing it in books. And those are the books that I like the most, the ones that nest the conflicts so that as you get deeper into complicated problems, you back your way out, but you have to address them in the order in which they were, in the reverse order that they were introduced.
Yeah.
So
that's fascinating.
Isn't that cool?
I'm going to start keeping an eye out for that.
Yeah. I will say though, once you start looking at the scaffolding, it can get in the way.
I mean, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So what about you? If you were going to write a romance character trope?
Forget. I think the only thing I would really be interested in writing is like borderline like satirical romance.
Yeah. Romance that knows what it's doing.
Kind of. Yeah. Or like romance that just doesn't give a fuck what it's doing, I think is also my happy place. So I don't know. At one point I decided that I was going to write oh no. I have several little stories that I haven't quite written yet, but I do have copious notes on. One of them is between a woman and the human embodiment of a Swiss Army knife.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Tools, screw, lots of jokes here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And at one point he does surprise her by showing her that he's replaced all of his tools with different sex toys that he can just whip out at random. So that's pretty fun.
For sure.
One of them is like, I don't know, set at an autumnal fair, and it's a sapphic Mother Nature who like comes apple cider. Another one is a Moby Dick retelling in which the heroine is the whale, and he has to like put on one of those old timey bubble head suits so that he can swim down and use his whole body on her clit. Like there's just there's a lot of weird stuff going on up here,
listeners. All right, I need to try to explain to you the motion that Melody just made. I'm going to try to do this because, podcasting is not a visual medium.
It's an audio medium.
But so picture Melody. So first of all, she's got headphones on. So she does kind of have the bubble head, just without the glass in the front. But there's just like the headset is like a little bubble. And then she puts her hands on either side of her ear and kind of does a whole body figure 8 up and down, back and forth. Yeah. Thereby becoming the human,
the clitoral stimulator,
the human diverclitoral. Yeah. Ooh, it's a shame that there's not an opportunity to just throw a little visual in there because that was great for me. Thank you.
You know what? If I can send you the video clip, I will.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good. Okay.
No worries.
All right. Hit me. What's next?
Okay. All right. Do you have any tips on keeping long distance friendships going?
Oh yeah. Like most of my friendships are long distance.
Same.
Yeah. I went to college in South Carolina at a women's college, and 2 of my very closest friends are still there. I don't see them all the time. They live in my pocket.
Yeah.
But we text all the time. And I am very bad at knowing what day it is, but one of my friends had surgery on Monday. So I had several reminders, text, make sure everything's good. I read a really wonderful book that you would actually might like, Melody. It's called The Art of Showing Up.
Oh, shit. I need that book.
And one of the things that really stuck with me is that Venmo is my favorite sympathy card. So when someone experiences a loss and you cannot personally bring them a casserole, which is the way of the people of the Midwest, you send Venmo. Send somebody some money. Be like, please get yourself some wonderful snacks and look after yourself. I'm thinking of you. Venmo is my favorite sympathy card. It's one of the major takeaways from that book that I still think about. And that really changed the way I think of how I show up for my friends who I don't see all the time. Like, how do I show up for my friends that I don't see? It's different for every person. But one tip I will give in terms of long distance friendships is to not always just be the caretaker, to also ask for help and let other people take care of you. Like at one point, this was years ago. This was before I moved, so it was at least 8 years ago. I had like a personal business complicated question, and I was like, all right, I know who's going to give me good advice. So I emailed my friend. Her name is Rangeley. She lives in South Carolina. And I'm like, Rangeley, I need your advice. She's like, she texted me back. I will never forget this. I have been waiting for you to say that. Let's talk. And she gave me great advice. And, at one point her father did something super uncool and she was really upset and she called me and told me about it. And I got really upset. And I was so pissed off that I wrote the names of all the spices on the lids of my spices and then alphabetized my Lazy Susan of spices because I was so pissed I needed to restore order to something. Mad. So I alphabetized all my spices and they are still in that order because I was so mad. But keeping your friendships going by showing up for those people in the way that is meaningful to them, but also asking them to show up for you because they're not going to be able to see that you need help. They're not going to know because they don't see you all the time. Ask people for help.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a really hard time with that.
Yeah. You don't say, me
it's
too.
Very
hence
hard.
Rangeley saying, oh my God, I've been waiting for this. What do you need?
I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, it's really true. And yeah, that's definitely.
What about you? What are your tips?
Well, so my Venmo is my favorite sympathy card is fucking brilliant.
Isn't that smart?
Yeah. Tanya, my friend Tanya has shown me a really amazing way to keep up long distance friendships. And that is like anytime she knows one of her friends is having like a birthday celebration or whatever.
Yeah.
Normally, she can find out the establishment that they're at. And so she'll call in and give her credit card and be like, I want to buy this person this drink. And so from, Illinois, she's gotten a lot of us birthday drinks. And it's like the sweetest thing in the whole wide world. She's also really good about when Michael had his 1 year store anniversary, she sent him a bottle of scotch. Like it was really... She's a really incredible long distance friend. One of mine is do a project together.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Because like I said, I get hyper focused. And so a lot of times I need a something to tailor things around, if that makes sense. One time I watched a show. That was one of our projects, was like watching a show together with a long distance friend. One time I started an entire podcast in order to just talk to one person more often. Yeah. So projects are really fun.
Yep.
I've also like made blankets alongside other people.
Yeah.
Like we sort of had a crochet club, but we would just we would FaceTime while we were doing it or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of mine. And then the other one is don't think you're a weirdo if you randomly have a thought about someone and just want to shoot off like hey, I was thinking about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end.
Absolutely. People love to be thought of.
Yeah.
One time, a friend of mine reached out to my husband to find out where I like to get my nails done, and then called and paid for my manicure and pedicure for that month.
That is so sweet.
Yeah. So if you have the ability to sleuth, you can surprise people with fun things.
Yeah. That's really nice.
But if you think about like back in the day, what did people do? Well, you'd bring food, you'd bring a casserole, you'd help somebody run errands, that kind of thing. And I love now that people are talking about maintaining their friendships by making dates to run errands together.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Like, let's go run errands together. I have to go to the dry cleaner. You have to go to the post office. Let's just wait in line together and hang out.
That's really smart.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're curious, the book is The Art of Showing Up by Rachel Wilkerson Miller. Awesome. It's lovely, and the audiobook is very, very good.
Okay. Another one is tips on navigating the end of a friendship.
It sucks.
It's hard.
The first tip I have is, yes, it sucks. And it's okay that it sucks. It's okay that you're miserable. It's okay that it feels like a breakup, because it is.
It is. It's a breakup.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I hate about social media, particularly Facebook, is that it ossifies relationships that ordinarily would have been able to just decline and die through normal human inaction.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you make friends in college, you stay in touch with some of them, but you don't stay in touch with all of them. You make friends at work, you stay in touch with some of them, but Facebook particularly, and other forms of social media to a lesser extent, will calcify those friendships exactly as they are. And then you kind of know about somebody, but you kind of don't. And it's just awkward, especially if you're like me and you're a person who doesn't have a lot of energy for a whole buttload of people. Like, I'm not a big lots of people person. There are people like that, and they're lovely, and I'm always astonished by them. But that is not how my brain works.
Nope.
So first is just remembering, most of all, that it sucks and it's normal. Friendships have a lifespan. You might not think that because you can stay in touch with somebody forever and ever and ever using all of these different tools that we have now. But friendships have a lifespan, and you grow and change, and other people grow and change, and your priorities are changed. I also think that there's a lot of negative pressure on the idea that something has ended. And just because something has ended does not mean that it has failed.
That's true.
Just because something has ended means that it's ended. And I know so many people right now who have gotten or are getting a divorce. And some of those relationships needed to end.
Yes.
Like, much sooner than they did, if you're asking me if I were queen. But things would be a little bit different with some of them. But that was the timeline that happened. And those relationships started one way and ended another. And it is not necessarily a failure. It's just the end. People change, circumstances change, priorities change, people grow up, people fix themselves, people fix other things about their lives. Things change. Nothing is ever static, and that includes friendships.
Yeah.
So 1, it sucks. 2, it's normal. Things end.
Yeah.
And 3, it's okay that it hurts a lot. Even as lonely as it is, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone knows what to do with a divorce or a romantic breakup.
Absolutely.
But there's no real greeting card industry and tchotchkes at Spencer Gifts about the end of a friendship.
No. People have whole divorce parties.
Oh yeah. With invitations. You're invited to the burning of my like divorce decree. Wow, okay. Yeah.
But it would be weird as fuck for somebody to have an end of a friendship party. Even though I think a lot of times our friendships are just as, if not more important than a romantic relationship might be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there isn't a really clear path to coping or how to show up for somebody who's going through that. That's really hard because you don't necessarily know what to say.
And I don't know that we know what to ask for either.
No.
I think we have a cultural script for a romantic breakup.
You're exactly right.
We don't have a cultural script for a friendship breakup.
No. My default is almost always, I'm so sorry. I've been there. It sucks. And then another wonderful tip that I've learned from a podcast that has since ended called Friendshipping. There was also a book, and the book is read by the 2 podcasters. So it's great, but it's Friendshipping. Melody, you would love this show. Okay, so the opening theme, friendship between humans has many benefits, but sometimes there are problems and you want to call it quits. Don't write nasty subtweets or punch them in the tits. Do friendship at the problem. That just hit all of your buttons, right? Yeah, that's the theme song.
Single one of them.
Yep. This was one of my favorite podcasts, and the archives are wonderful. But basically, they're solving friendship problems. And one thing that I learned from that show is that when you want to offer help, offer specifics that you can do. Like, I can send you a funny GIF every day. Tell me your favorite animal. I will make it happen. You know, yeah. I can go and take over your social media for you if you need me to. Mm-hmm. I can change your Facebook password so you don't Facebook stalk anybody. I can do all of these things. Which one can I help you with?
Yeah.
Being
that's
specific
really, really
with what you can do. Because then that also lets you set limits, and it doesn't make this open-ended sort of mouth noises. Oh, if there's anything I can do, call me. Like, here are things that I can do.
Right.
And let's have a Zoom date. What's your ice cream? That's the one I'll buy. So we're having the same ice cream.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really nice. No, it's true, because I don't think people know. And I also don't think we give ourselves permission to mourn a friendship like we do romantic relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though I think it's basically exactly the same.
Well, I mean, part of that is capitalism under white supremacy, right? Because a marriage is meant to produce children, which is meant to be productive. There's a whole reproductive element in there. And friendships are not productive in the terms of, producing capital.
It's true. It's very, very true. Yeah. Those are incredible tips. And they're mostly all of mine, too.
Good.
So, yay.
All right.
Yeah. And you know what? Good old distraction is really a tried and true one of my things for anything.
Yeah. Because essentially what you're doing is rewriting a habit, right?
Yeah.
Like it was my habit to text this person. It was my habit to tell them about this. Like, because you're still going to have that, but I can't text that person anymore.
Yep.
It's breaking a habit, and habits are hard.
Yeah, they really are.
Thank you again for being part of the podcast Patreon, and thank you for tuning into this bonus episode. In 2 weeks, Melody and I will be back answering more questions, but I'm curious, if you enjoyed this, would you like to do an AMA with me and another podcaster, or me and Amanda? Let me know in the comments, and have a fabulous day.